So welcome. My name is Jonathan and it's December 21st, 2020. So that's the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the day with the fewest daylight hours in the year. And this is a 60-minute solstice flow live on Instagram, just under Jonathan Boyd as the handle. Very creative. It's just my name. And solstice flow, but with soul being spelled S-O-U-L. And the meaning there is just that soul can have a meaning in terms of an emotional energy. And whether that's a work of art or a performance or even your yoga practice being soulful. The yoga term for emotion, though, is Rasas, and there are 9 Rasas. And these include love, joy, wonder, peace, anger, courage, sadness, fear, and disgust. And rasa can also be translated as just flavors, so the flavors of life. So to be soulful and to be a true connoisseur of life means to embrace all 9 of these emotions, which is so fitting for 2020, where we've had such an emotional roller coaster of a year. So please sit up tall. You might sit up onto a block like myself here, and if you do, you're welcome to grab your butt flush and pull that up so you can sit more upright, and then look forward. Join your hands together in front of your heart and close your eyes slightly. With your eyes just softly closed, still bringing in the light that is around you, whether that's the evening and an external light or still during the day when you are practicing and you're picking up some natural light. Allow your chin to lift slightly, like you're drinking an elixir, the elixir that is the beauty of your breath. And we've gained so much more appreciation of our breath this year, where many of us have been asked to inhibit our breath by wearing masks for protection, of course, because the breath is the gateway of danger, of fear, of transmission of a contagious virus. So here, hopefully practicing in a safe space where you can breathe in and out through your nose or even through your mouth as needed. And thinking about the idea of flavors and taste and how that translates, of course, with eating food. And are you someone who wants to taste all the flavors or eat as much food as possible? So seeking in life to experience the full spectrum of emotions and to be mindful and aware, to be a true master at yoga. Take a deep breath in. Open your mouth, exhale it out. And then lower your hands, lower your chin, and please begin in downward facing dog. So separate your hands as wide as your shoulders, step your feet back, and have your feet far enough back that your heels lift slightly away from the floor. Then bend your knees a little so that you can tilt your sit bones high up into the air and create a slight arch in your low back. Actively push your hands forward and away from each other. Push your feet back and away from each other. And then maintaining the arch that you create in your low back by tilting your sit bones up, push your legs straighter. On your next inhale, move forward to plank pose, the top of a push-up position, holding strong here. And there's an element of fear that comes in anytime that we go into plank pose, because you never know how long the plank is going to be. So it takes an element of courage, of course, to overcome that, to dive into the mystery. You may have emotions of anger show up by holding plank position. At the end, though, you might appreciate that in terms of how much strength you've developed through your arms. So keep your chin lifted, maintain a neutral face and a calm breath. Take one last breath in, and then as you exhale, push back to downward facing dog. With your next inhale, lift your right leg back behind you, pause and hold the position, but not your breath.
So use your hands pushing forward to extend your right leg all the way back to straight. And then on an exhale, draw your knee into your nose. And we'll do that 2 more times. Lift your right leg back. And then exhale, knee in. And last time, right leg back. And then knee in. Pause and hold. Then step your foot forward between your hands. If it doesn't make it, you can always bring your back knee down and just pull your foot forward. But inhale, rise up, place your hands to your hips and pause. At any point, if you want to modify by dropping your back knee down, you're welcome to. Puff up your chest, move your shoulders back, and then reach your arms high up into the air. Allow your fingers to shine brightly to express just the joy that you experience in postures. Sanskrit for joy is hasya, which just means to be lighthearted, to have an element of humor within your practice, to not take life so seriously. So spreading the fingers, reaching up high, and maybe even leaning back a little bit. One more breath in, and then turn to the floor, bring your hands down, and step back to plank pose. Option this time is to have your right leg lifted. You could even bend your knee and make a bit of a scorpion tail position. Pausing and hold. Deep breath in, deep breath out, and then push back to downward facing dog. Lower your right foot down and switch. Lift your left leg behind you in the air. Actively push your hands forward and away from each other. Extend your left leg straight. And then on an exhale, knee in, curl in. And inhale, lift your leg back. Again, knee in. And then leg back. And last time, knee in, pause and hold. Then step your foot forward between your hands. And joyfully, playfully rise up. Playful might mean that you just stay a little bit buoyant and bouncy in your high lunge position. Move your shoulders back, puff up your chest, and then float your arms up into the air. So humor is just an effective tool in life, and probably our most natural state is when we're with friends, just enjoying life, seeing the beauty that is just the illusion that is life, all of the crazy things that happen, to look at them from a perspective of hilarity, which isn't always easy, especially when things are challenging. One last breath in, and then plant your hands down. Step back, plank pose. Again, option to have your left leg lifted. You can turn it into a little bit of a scorpion tail too, just in case you want to sting someone for making a joke at a time that you didn't feel was joke appropriate. Okay, then step your foot back for a regular plank, and on an exhale, lower it all the way to the floor. Point your toes back behind you, lift your hands to hover, pull your shoulders back, and inhale, lift up for low cobra position. It's not a super dramatic position physically, but one where you should feel the strength through your upper back and mid back, even low back as well. And then maintain that strength, place your hands under your shoulders, even precisely, fingers in line with your nipples, no laughing. And then with your fingers in line with your nipples, I'm watching, push your arms straighter and rise up into high cobra, moving your shoulders back, pull your hands towards your hips, lift your chest forward and up, and then on an exhale, push back, downward facing dog. Just moving a little bit quicker now through a flow. Inhale, come forward, plank. Exhale, lower down halfway or all the way. And then inhale for your back bend. If you prefer having your hips lifted for upward facing dog, A-OK. I'm just more of a fan of cobra. And then exhale, push back, downward facing dog. Deep breath in and deep breath out. One of the flavors is wonder, to have a childlike curiosity, astonishment. So getting ready to experience that, bend your knees, look forward between your hands. Playing here, hop forward towards the front of your space. Whee! Then inhale, lengthen your spine, lift up halfway. And exhale and bow in. Place your hands to your hips, elbows to the sides, and inhale, come all the way up to stand. And release your arms alongside you. Lean over to your right foot and lift your left knee. Holding your knee with both hands, stand tall. And then standing tall, move your shoulders back. Option to hold under your thigh and then extend your leg straighter from there. There's actually a lot of poses in yoga that have child themes. So there's baby cradle, happy baby, child's pose, reclined child's pose, baby dancer, etc. Option to reach your arms up into the air. There's something so powerful about being around children who have this view of wonder, or adbhuta in Sanskrit, to always stay curious, astonished at the natural world or the unnatural world. And also, just in terms of where are we going next, swing your left leg back behind you just to give your body a slight break, essentially switching the leg that's up and the leg that's down, but staying in a balanced position. Airplane pose, which is a hybrid of Warrior 3 where you reach your arms forward. I'm just not doing that because I then can't talk at the same time. So exploring if you're doing airplane with your palms face up or down or facing the midline, or I don't even think you could really turn your palms to face out to the sides. But just where does that feel best for you? And everyone's going to be different. There isn't a right or wrong in yoga, except whatever I say, then it's right. Come all the way up to stand, lower your foot down, and switch legs. Bounce on your left foot, hold on to your right knee. Bend your standing leg just a little bit, and instead of tucking under, move your hips back. So let this be the year of less tuck and more duck. Then hold under your thigh and extend your leg straighter from there, dropping the weight of your leg into your hands. Look forward. Anger, again, is a natural emotion. Sanskrit for that is rauja, which could be fury. Irritability. Option to go arms up into the air. Stress. And when you can harness anger, that can be the catalyst for change. That's when you can achieve a task when someone slighted you the wrong way. Then swing your leg back behind you, tilt forward, airplane pose. Of course, this past year we saw that in full force when communities gathered together in anger over the events of George Floyd's killing and the Black Lives Matter. Option to pulse your leg. So anger can create change and build heat and fire. Obviously, within yoga, there's another pose that draws in quite a bit of anger, along with plank. We'll go into that next. So lower your right foot to your left foot, then bend your knees, touch your fingers down, stay low with your hips, and reach your arms up into the air. Chair pose. To find peace in chair is extremely challenging. So notice if your reaction to chair is in disgust, dissatisfaction. So the idea of disgust, the vatsa, is that it's an emotion we do want at certain times. Think of eating spoiled food or something. We actually want to be disgusted with things, disgusted with people's behavior. You may be disgusted with chair, that's okay. Clasp your hands behind your back now. Going back to the wonder, this is called what the pose. Tilt forward, hinge at your hips till your torso is parallel to the floor. And then lift your heels to hover. Embrace this. It's called what the blank. You can fill in the blank with any word that seems appropriate. Just notice whether it has to be PG, PG-13, or you're in a room where it can be R-rated. Keep your heels lifted, then touch your hands down. Option to step or even hop back towards plank pose, and then lower down halfway or all the way, lifting for a back bend for flow. And then push back, downward facing dog. On an inhale, swing your right leg back behind you. And then exhale, step your right foot forward between your hands. Bring your back heel down and point your foot directly to the left. Line your right heel with the center of your back foot. And then inhale, warrior two position. Rise up and stretch your arms in opposition to each other. Settle in lower, Virabhadrasana 2. And Vira is courage. So one of the 9 Rasas to have courage. Clasp your hands behind your back. Bend the elbows slightly and keep your wrists separated. Lift your shoulders up and then move them back so your heart is open. And then bow forward towards the inside of your right leg. So the French word for heart is coeur. So courage means to have heart. To have heart means that you rise to a challenge. So in a lot of ways that courage and vira goes hand in hand with fear and worry. It's hard to be courageous if you're not also fearful at the same time. Okay, then touch your hands down, lift your back heel, and then step back to plank position. Join your feet together, and then turn both feet to the right. Stack your right foot on your left foot, and lift your right arm up into the air for side plank position. So it takes fear to be courageous. Fear is bhayanika, where there's a worry, a nervousness, an anxiety, which is essentially what most of us experience, especially dramatically and heightened in March and April during the initial aspects of the pandemic. Lower your right hand down. Option to go through a flow, lower down halfway or all the way. Inhale for your back bend. And then push back, downward facing dog. So back bend du jour, speaking French today. That's back bend that you want to do today. Lift your left leg back on an inhale, and then step your foot forward between your hands. Turn your right foot out, and then inhale, rise up. Warrior two. The idea of courage brings back French class from elementary and high school to me, because there is a French video that we are always shown to learn French called Télé Français, which had a talking pineapple. And one of the songs of the pineapple was J'ai courage, I have courage. Determination, pride. Clasp your hands behind your back and then bow forward towards the inside of your left leg this time to seek to develop power. Obviously, if you practice power yoga, there's a lot of elements of courage that are required for that practice. Breathing fully, settling in, sinking in, and then touch your hands down. Step back to plank position, join your feet together, and then side plank balancing on your right hand this time. Lift your left arm up. If you want to make a kickstand or lower the bottom knee, you're always welcome to. Make things more accessible, or turn the volume up in your practice if you want more challenge. Okay, then turn to the floor, hand down, lower down halfway or all the way. Inhale for your back bend. And then exhale and push back, downward facing dog. Right foot forward, left foot out, same setup as warrior two, except this time side angle position. So left hand to your hip, right hand stays down. Or if you want to make it a bit more accessible, go forearm to your thigh. Begin to twist to the left, move your hips back. Again, think more duck than tuck. And then swing your left arm alongside your ear. Actively reach and extend out. Aspire for something more, which of course in a year like this might be love, Shringara, to find more beauty, admiration, devotion. Notice just those words add to the element of just reaching and extension. Then finding half moon pose, place your left hand to your hip, wiggle your back foot in slightly, move your right hand forward about 30 or 40 centimeters, and lift your left leg up into the air. Begin to twist to the left, move your left shoulder back, and then reach your left arm high into the air. Just because everyone likes a challenge every now and then, you can stay here, or you could bend your left knee, grab hold of your foot, and add a thigh stretch position. So half moon, Ardha Chandrasana, becomes Ardha Chandra Chapasana, which sometimes is called sugar cane, but precisely it's drinking sugar cane in the moonlight pose. So those flavors alone can get your mouth watering, maybe a little bit of drool. Okay, if you have the foot, extra challenge is to slowly rise up momentarily to dancer's pose. Add any extra dance you want to do. And then hinge forward again. Release your foot. And this time square your hips so that your knee and toes point down, and step your foot back to a lunge position like we did at the beginning, except lower your knee down to the floor. I like to point my toes back. Then place your right hand to your thigh. Lift your left arm high up into the air. Reach up all the way. Move your knee over to the left and hook your left elbow to the outside of your knee. My preference is actually to make a fist with the lower hand and wrap the other hand over top. I feel it's just a stronger position to go into. And I'm someone where I'm quite satisfied to just keep the back knee down, but if you got a little bit of disgust or anger in you, working on building some fire, you're welcome to lift your back knee. If you point your toes, that's an extra challenge. So embrace that ferocity. It's great when you can harness that and practice that within yourself, and not necessarily with the person who's just taking a little bit too long making your coffee at the coffee shop in the morning. On an inhale, untwist, reach your arms high up into the air. And then plant your hands, step back to plank pose, top of a push-up. Intentionally tricking you here so you know where we're going. Lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale, come back up to plank, I tricked you. And push back, downward facing dog. Don't get upset at me, I told you. Lift your left leg back, and then step your foot forward. Turn your right foot out, and then side angle pose, Parsva Konasana, second side. So I'm just coming up a bit higher, just so that I can still talk at the same time. I usually don't teach when I teach regular drop-in classes and practice at the same time. I usually just stand and watch, because those who can't do, teach. And then those who can't teach gym. Move your shoulder back, reach your right arm long. And it's true, I have taught gym, grade 8 gym at 2 different schools. We did badminton in one, and then the other was basketball and yoga. I got pretty lucky there. Setting up for half moon pose, right hand to your hip, wiggle your back foot in, Move your left hand forward, push off your foot, lift it into the air, and then stretch out. Radiate outwards in all directions from the center of your pelvis. Push out through the legs, push out through your arms, lift your chin. Option to bend your knee, grab hold of your foot for the sugarcane variation, adding a little bit of a back bend to it. And then option to rise up to your dancers. Add any dance that you want to do. And then hinge forward. Touch your hands down. Touch your hands down. Step your foot back. Option to lower your knee down. Place your left hand to your thigh. Reach your right arm into the air. Add some flair. It looks like this. And then using that as leverage to twist to your left. Hook your right elbow to the outside of your knee. You can make a fist with the lower hand. Wrap the upper hand over top and begin to twist from right to left. So again, with the back knee down, you can even move your hips forward to add to the stretch, or if you want a bit more of a flame, lift your back knee up. Sometimes us yoga teachers will say things like, detoxify your body of any negative thoughts or feelings. And it's true that some of these 9 emotions are considered positive versus negative, like disgust, anger, fear, and sadness are usually considered, the downside of the flavors. Inhale to untwist, float your arms up into the air, and then plant your hands, step back to plank position. And then here in plank, lower down onto your elbows for forearm plank position. But we do want fear. We teach children to be fearful of crossing the street for safety purposes. And at the same time, the positive ones like love, joy, wonder, and courage can sometimes not be appropriate in a situation. It's not necessarily appropriate to be joyful or humorous at a funeral. So it comes with relativity in the current moment. Holding strong. World record for this is 10 hours. I attempted it and lasted 10 seconds one time. It was too boring. You got to make sure you got a show that's really good that you're ready to binge watch. Okay, then lower your knees down just to help with the transition to lower your hips down. Point your toes. Pause here in Sphinx position. You can stay here. You could even bend your knees and do Sphinx like that. Or isolate the stretch. It's called Bakasana, which is frog pose, just one leg at a time. Reach back with your right hand, grab your right foot. If you can, hold the big toe side of the foot, then start to bring the heel in towards your outer hip as you pivot and point the elbow up. And you may then feel some nice sensation in the front of your right thigh. We often call that one stretching. Ooh, feels good. Okay, and then switch to the other side. Holding on to your left foot. And you can have the thumb up and then start to bring the foot in. Even potentially hold the foot through the inner crease of the elbow. I usually use the queen wave technique to get myself there. Some of these rasas, they almost have like 2 meanings that you could use. So karuna, which I've just called sadness, but it also is just as equal to be compassion. So compassion or sadness, there's always some element of sadness for someone to be compassionate or to have pity. Okay, and then release. Lower down so that your forehead is to the floor. Having pity on everyone. So some people love this position. I don't know if I'm a lover of it. For the men, you have to be careful. You want to put your weight either on your belly or the front of your thighs. I just don't know enough of from the female side of things, but just be mindful because it's a sensitive area, the front of your body. But bend your knees, reach back, grab hold of your ankles or your feet, and then kick your feet into your hands. Rise up for bow pose. Kicking the feet back, lifting the shoulders up, looking forward. You don't have to lift up as high as you can with your head and strain your neck. Just look forward and then use the kick back to rock up. Then release your feet. Place your hands under your shoulders. Push your way up to plank. Bend your knees. Coming back to that element of play, joy, wonder. Bend your knees, spring your legs, and then hop forward into a squat position. Okay, with the feet relatively wide and turned out, pause and hold here. Joining the hands together. Hug your knees in to the arms and push back with the arms into your knees. So you create an internal resistance with yourself, which is also called making a decision at a restaurant with the menu. Remember when we could do that and people would be watching you and be like, come on, we're not here all day waiting for you to make a decision. So create that resistance, hold strong, option to stay here or maintain that resistance and then fly with crow pose, which means bring your hands down, lean forward, squeeze your knees in, push out with the elbows, lift one foot and then the other foot. Pulling the knees in, lift the hips up higher, push your arms straighter, stay focused, stay steady, stay strong for 3, 2, and 1. Lower your feet down, push your legs straighter, standing forward fold. Halfway lift, lengthen your spine, pause and hold the position, but not your breath. Bend your knees slightly. If you want a manual assist, grab both cheeks, butt cheeks that is, lift them up, then return your fingers down again and push your legs straighter from there. One more breath in, and then exhale out. Place your hands to your hips and slowly rise all the way up to stand. Then lean to your right foot, lift your left foot for tree pose. So place your foot to your upper inner thigh, could go shin or ankle. And then rejoin your hands together in front of your heart. So the Rasas offer us variety, which ties into a saying where we're all characters in the story. That in any novel, in any movie, every character represents a different flavor of emotion, and those emotions are just human life, the joy of embodiment. And to become truly powerful is to recognize that there's a little bit of all of us within each of us. Okay, lower your foot down and switch sides. Bounce on your left. Place your right foot to your upper inner thigh or inner ankle, inner shin. Just slowing the heart rate down and getting ready for a second shot at a arm balance. So we went to crow pose first, Bakasana. Sometimes it's translated as crane. My understanding is crow is elbows bent, crane is when you have your arms straight. The same is true with side crow or side crane. So lower your right foot down, have your feet together, and then bend your knees. Take a deep breath in, and then twist to your right. Hook your left elbow to the outside of your knee, and then pause and hold here. So if you're tapping out for arm balances, tap, 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 just stay. Or get down lower, lower your hands down. Keep your right thigh propped up with your left elbow, but try to have your right elbow free. There is a version where you use your right elbow under your right hip as just a remedial stage, but do your best to keep the right elbow free. And then to actually go into the pose, you have to move the feet forward towards the front of your mat, and then bend your elbows and lean your weight to your right hand, like I'm doing here. From there, it's then counter, lift your feet up, pause and hold, side crow. Okay, and then lower your feet down and slowly rise back up. Stretch your arms up. Ta-da! Perfect. And then second side, I'll just change the angle. Bend your knees, deep breath in, twist to your left this time, hook your right elbow to the outside of your knee. Pause here, or touch the hands down, lean towards the left hand. Hips have to be somewhat high to then be able to lean to the left hand to lift your feet up. Okay, and then slowly come back up to stand. Ta-da, we did it. Now, extra challenge is going down into a squat position with the feet together to eventually end up sitting on your bum. So if you end up just falling onto your bum, that's where we're going into boat pose next. But try to stay with feet together and go down to a squat. So you might end up getting stuck about here and having to put your hands down and lower down to a seated position. If you have the capacity though to come down, look at that, I did it. And then eventually bum down, lift your feet up, boat position. Pause and hold here. If you want support, hold the backs of your thighs. If you want challenge, extend your legs straight. If you want a combination of the two, hold your thighs and extend your legs straight. The final one I haven't really talked about yet is peace, but you can think of it as calmness as well, shanta. Classically represented in shavasana or a meditation position, but here in boat pose, can you find the calm in the storm? Okay, and then lower all the way onto your back. Bring your arms alongside you on the floor. Keep your legs up in the air. Push your legs straighter, which is tough if you're not the most flexible. And then lower to touch your right heel down. Lift your leg and switch. Left heel down and lift your leg and continue that. If you want to make it more challenging, you can switch in mid-air like a scissor action. You could also cup the back of your head and lift into a little bit of a crunch position to intensify the 6 package that you're developing. It might be an 8-pack as well. You get a little extra Tupac in you. Okay, and then bend your knees. Place your hands to the front of your thighs. And I like this one, I call it I Have the Power, after He-Man, when he grabs a sword and then he has the power. But it just means that you have the power to make it as challenging or as not challenging as possible, which is to push your legs away from you with your hands, but resist back. Try your best to keep your low back just slightly lifted so you embrace the natural curves of your spine. Push your head down, push the legs away, resist back. You can make this super intense, be angry at yourself and then be like, hey, why are you so angry at me? What did I do to you? And you're like, I don't know, but you've been bugging me all day, all week. Push, 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 push. Then cross your ankles, hold the backs of your thighs, and rock yourself up to seated. Join the bottoms of your feet together and open your knees out to the side for Baddha Konasana. Sitting up tall, push the feet in, open the knees out wide. Okay, then maintain your left leg in that position, but slide your right leg longer. You could put your left foot to your inner thigh like tree pose, or go a little bit wider so you're on the top of your foot. Turn over your right leg and bow forward. Janu Shirshasana, head to knee pose. Some may benefit by sitting on a block, myself included. Years and years of practice for a position like this has resulted in very little improvement from my end. And sometimes that can be based on bone structure and not necessarily on flexibility of your muscles. So it's a nice excuse to have when someone's like, why aren't you getting better grades? Or why aren't you doing better in your life? Why do your relationships keep failing? You're like, bone structure. The head of my femur doesn't fit totally into my acetabulum, and it kind of like locks and prevents me from rotating my thigh out, which affects the rest of my life. Okay, switch to the other side. So extend your left leg out, bring your right leg in, turn over your right leg, anchor down with your left heel, lift up tall, and then hinge forward over your left leg. If you have a strap or belt, you could use that to loop up your foot. Just notice the difference between one side versus the other. If you are on a block, that increases the risk of hyperextending. So if I got the back of my left knee down to the floor, that would be hyperextension. If you're on a block, it's hard to hyperextend unless you lift your heel up away from the floor. I sometimes see that, and then that becomes hyperextension. So that means bending your knee the way that you don't want to naturally bend the knee. The only real natural way is like Boys to Men on bended knee. Okay, and then bring your leg in. Just swing it back so that you can rise up into a kneeling position. Kneeling means standing on your shins, like that. Up to you. I know some people like to tuck the toes like this. That often causes some sensitivity for my knees, which is like disgust, anger. So I point the toes. The downside of pointing your feet completely is it's harder to touch your heels. So I do a hybrid where I then pull the toes forward and the heels lift a little bit. Place your hands to your hips, puff up your chest, move your shoulder back, and then start to lean back. So back bends in particular really harness the flavor of courage that's required to go into the mystery, and then touch one heel and then your other heel. You could look forward, up, or back. I kind of like a mix between forward and up. You could also walk the hands towards the knee pits. That's pretty intense. I might need a few more before I go to that level. But I know people who can easily just put their head to the floor in this position, and that's where my mouth drops open and I have that a Buddha childlike wonder, like, what? Push with your hands, come up, hands to hips, and sit onto your heels. Close your eyes. Find a sense of peace. To have peace, rest, calmness can be to think of reducing your needs to the minimum that's required. This has been a year where we truly have begun to understand what we really need in our life versus the things we want, the extra stuff. Okay, rise up again. And then this time adding a little bit of a twist to it. So begin to lean back and then go right hand to your right heel. Left hand supports your neck by holding your head or reaches back. If you want to go even further, then take your right hand to your left heel. So you do a little bit of a cross skis, touch skis, heelsies, and then reach that way. Adds a little bit of a bowspring, swaying seaweed component to it. Then if you went to left heel, go back to right heel first in stages, and then use that to push your way up. Again, swaying seaweed just naturally forms here. And then arc over to your left, support your neck, hold your head with your right hand, or go even further over, right heel with your left hand. Lean back, twist, and then actively reach. Okay, then push off to the first foot again, and then all the way up, and sit back on your heels. Two choices here. One is to stay in the peaceful side of things, Shanta. The other is to harness your courage and your anger here to create some intensity. So again, Shanta, peace, just breathe, ignore everything I say for the next 30 seconds. Wanting the fire, place your hands beside your knees with your palms face down. Lean forward, lift your bum, toes pointed, push through the tops of your feet and lift your knees up. Pause, hold here. If you can lift both feet, that's impressive. Or lift one foot, pause, hold. Lower your foot, lift the other foot, hold. And then lower your foot and lower your knees. Whew. That was intense. From the intensity, find a little bit of play. So lift up. I'll just move back a little bit so that we have space. We're more in the middle of the mat kneeling. And then position your weight to your left leg. Step your right foot forward. Okay, and then now with your right foot forward, move your hips back. Lift your front heel. Reach your arms forward and wide. And then lift your front foot. One shin balance. Embrace the play and the humor that's involved. You're going to fail. The great thing with kids is that when they fail, they just want to try it again. When adults fail at something, they just stop doing it because we expect to be perfect at everything, even though we've never tried it before. Now step your right foot forward a little bit wide. Bring your hands down towards the inside of your foot. And then just options here with lizard is to come down onto your elbows, or if you want to add a twisted thigh stretch, a little bit of a combination of some poses we've done, you can reach back with your right hand to grab hold of your foot. Pull your heel in, twist to the right. When the pandemic first shut things down in March, I decided to start being more serious with piano. Being serious being that I downloaded an app that then could measure my progress a little bit. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty proud of myself. If I've gotten this good in 1 year, think of where I'll be in 5 years. I'm gonna be the next Mozart. Okay, release your foot if you're holding it. If you're in lizard, just make your way up. And then to switch the other side, you just have to go back through one shin balance. Left foot hovers, hold. If you're starting to get really good at this, circle your belly and tap your head. That's too hard actually. But just embrace the fun and the challenge, especially if you've practiced yoga a long time. You could turn this into tree pose. You can turn it into tiny dancer position. There's so many variations. Then step your foot forward, reach the arms forward, move your hips back, touch your hands down. If you move the hips way back and then pull the rib cage forward, it's just easier to then come down onto the elbows. If I stay bunched in, I can't really get them down, but if I go wide and make space, it's easier. Or look over the left shoulder, lift your right foot, grab hold of your foot and twist. My rule is I gotta get heel to bum, and if I can make that connection, then lower down right elbow. But if it's not heel to bum, I was there. But if it's not, then just stay upright. It's important to have rules and boundaries in your life. Okay, if you held your foot, release it. If you're in lizard, push your way up. Sensitive knee there. And then move your left foot back. Bring your hands down, tuck your toes under, lift your knees, turn your knees to the left, bring your right hip down, lie on your side body, and roll all the way over onto your back. Setting up for bridge pose, you can do classic version with robot arms, elbows bent. If you want to play with a different version, you can hold on to your ankles and then pull on your ankles as you push your knees away from your upper body and lift your hips up. That one's called Chatush Padasana, four-footed pose. And if you're someone who likes to go into Urdhva instead, wheel position, rise to the top of your head, move your hands a little closer and wider, maybe even lift your heels, and then lift yourself up. It's always great if you're practicing with someone else in the room. You can look at them and be like, hi. They'll be like, are you okay? And you're like, hi. Yeah, I'm great. What's going on? Tuck your chin, slowly lower. If you were in bridge, just bring your hips down. Then extend your right leg up into the air. Hold the back of your thigh. If you want to slide your left leg long, you're welcome to. Okay, then bend your right knee. Hold your knee with your left hand, right arm up to the side, and then right leg to the left as you look towards your right hand or shoulder. Sometimes yoga gets stressful with the lefts and rights, especially towards the end of class. Don't worry about it. There'll be a second side. Just do whatever side you didn't do on the first one. Slowly come all the way up and switch legs. So have your left leg go up, hold the back of your thigh. The right knee could be bent all the way with your foot flat or the leg straight or somewhere in between. Imagine if you were an octopus and you're like, now extend your seventh arm up, holding the seventh arm with the first and fourth arms, but relax your third and fifth arms. And what's your eighth doing? Pay attention. That'd be challenging. Then bend your knee, hold your knee with your right hand, move your left knee to your right, but the twist is from right to left, so it's where your chest goes. The chest goes from right, turning towards the left. Just beginning to wind things down. Eventually Shavasana will have the opportunity to be in a seated position instead. So if you want to do that and then stay upright, you can do a different pose. So just untwist. So the on your back variation is thread the needle, cross your right ankle over your left thigh, lift your left foot and slide your right hand in between the gap of your legs to hold the top of your left shin. If you want to be more upright, then go into pigeon pose with your right shin forward. So just up to you. I don't ever want to hold anyone back from completing their practice that they want to do. You write in your journal that the solstice practice for 2021 winter solstice was ruined by Jonathan because he didn't put pigeon in. Then just do pigeon. I'm not taking the blame. Okay, then make your way to the second side. It's pretty easy on your back. You can just switch in midair and cross the left ankle over your right thigh, thread the left hand through your legs to hold the top of your right shin. And then pull the knee in. Use your left elbow to gently nudge your left knee out to the side. And if you can hold near your knee, pull your knee down and towards your hip until you get a little lift of your low back, just a slight one. So it's the natural curvature of the spine. And then as you pull your right knee down, nudge the left knee out to the side. Just be like, hey, get away from me, left knee. In the words of the police, don't stand so close to me. Okay, and then if you're doing pigeon, it'll be seated, legs straight forward and fold forward over your legs, Paschimottanasana, west side stretch or sunset pose, or those of us on our backs, happy baby pose, which is holding on to the outside of your feet. A little bit more accessible is holding on to the big toes, if you're not quite as flexible. And then even more accessible is just holding the backs of your thighs. And then even more accessible is just holding your knees and maybe rocking side to side. And then one by one, release your legs out for a final resting position, finding the peace from your practice. And if instead you prefer to be upright in a seated position, it's where you could sit with your back to the wall, or you could sit up on a block, cross your legs in any way that allows you to be comfortable, but still effortful. The difference between meditation and sleep is that meditation requires you to still maintain a level of effortfulness to resist gravity. The challenge, of course, for those in Shavasana is when you're on your back, there is a very thin line between rest, peacefulness, calmness of Shavasana and falling asleep. So to maintain your awareness, flood your body with your breath. Hopefully practicing in a place that is safe enough for you to breathe in without any fear. To let the breath do its natural work to purify the body. Life is a process of savoring. How much do you want to taste in life? Inhale deeply. And exhale all the way. Two more like that. Full breath in. And full breath out. And last one.
Wiggle your fingers and your toes, move your head side to side. If you're seated, you can just stay as you are. If you're on your back, bend your knees and roll to one side. Just pausing in a fetal position. The transition between corpse pose, Shavasana, and then preparation for our life off of the mat. And eventually push down with your upper hand to rise to a tall seated position. And once you arrive, please join your hands together at your heart. The heart, of course, in French, courage, to have heart, but it's even more associated with love, Shringara. So seek the beauty, the admiration, the devotion that lies within. And the greatest love of all is the love of yourself. Namaste.